do you want to just, so it's Kate Floss, and today we're just citizens, two citizens sitting here and talking about our 1688 Bill of Rights. So we're just thinking about ways that we can use our 1688 Bill of Rights. And this is the common law. These are the highest common law. And do you want to just introduce yourself? What's your first name? Or you can give a nickname if you want. Huh?
Yeah. My name is Diane.
Diane, right. So this is Diane, and of course everybody knows Kate Floss. So what Diane was saying to me, that she reads the 1688 Bill of Rights, but she doesn't quite sometimes know where the vocabularies are. So I want to tell you, first of all, what we have been talking about was the new declaration. First of all, we want to tell you that the 1990 Bill of Rights is an ordinary law. And then the 1688 Bill of Rights is your common right. That applies to every person on this earth. And so we call them subjects' rights because some people want to be under their Jewish rights or their Islamic rights or the rights that they want to, but we stand under these common law rights which apply to every person on earth, actually. And so the 1990 is only an ordinary law and it can be changed. And they recently made a declaration of inconsistency where the ordinary law could be used using United Nations law. And one, we're just saying here, but Diane was saying to me, what do you see? So I said here, here's frequent parliaments. Right, can you see frequent parliaments? All right, I'm going to put it on the share screen here for you. Right, there we go. So there it is on share screen. And then you can't see me, right, but I can see you. Right, so you'll be the face of this. You don't mind, do you? Okay, we'll make you the face of this. All right, so here it says, can you see frequent parliaments? What it says here, that we claim and we demand on the basis of our rights that no declarations or judgments are made by the Parliament, because this is by the Parliament. Parliament are not to make any declarations that are inconsistent with this Bill of Rights, with the common law. So just making a declaration of inconsistency, declarations of inconsistency do not trump common law. Common law will always, so the declaration of inconsistency is not worth the paper it's written on because it will not trump the common law. So that's whenever anybody takes a declaration of inconsistency against your common law right, you can quote this frequent parliament because it says here, no declarations can be made to the prejudice of the people in these premises. So that declaration of I was very worried about the declaration of inconsistency, thinking, wow, it's going to be used against us, but they cannot use this, but they're going to try. They are going to try. So the next...
As it just says here, and that for redress of all grievances and for the amending, strengthening and preserving of the laws, Parliament ought to be held frequently and that you claim and insist upon. So is that what paragraph we're talking about? Because mine was reading differently yours. I'm trying to sort of follow reading.
What does yours, can you say again? I can't follow it. It should start with frequent parliaments.
Yeah, frequent parliaments.
And then that for redress of grievances.
Yes.
And for the amendment, you see, all of you are not realising. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This common law is the restriction of Parliament. All Parliament is based on these laws. And if you want to get Parliament out, you've got to use these laws because the restrictions of Parliament, they are allowed to be in Parliament as long as they are upholding the common law. When they're not upholding the common law, it's no good going and standing outside the Governor-General's office. You've got to take this to the High Court and say to them, this is where they have failed and we want them removed. And that's when the Majesty can step in. So it says here, this tells you what the parliaments are supposed to do. It says it right here. Their job is for amending, strengthening, and preserving of the laws. Parliaments ought to be held frequently. Now, they're talking about these common laws. Their whole parliament is rested on these common laws. So then it says they cannot make any declarations, even the judges can't. No judges, they are not to make any no declarations, no judgments, no doings, no proceedings to the prejudice of the people in any of the said premises. These are the premises here. Ought in any wise be drawn hereafter into consequence or example, to which they demand their rights. They are particularly encouraged by the declaration of His Highness the Prince of Orange. Now, this is saying that when you have this is telling you what you need to do. When you have a problem with the Parliament, they have encouraged you, the people, to particularly go to the Majesty and get a declaration. And then, if you go to the tender of the Crown, and this is what the common law people are telling you, you go to the tender of the Crown. We don't need to read that or that, but I want you to go down to the bit where it says, hang on. Oh, no. Go down to liberties to be allowed. So there, I just told you that it said, we encourage you to go to the Prince or the Majesty. We encourage you to go to get a declaration. So you will go to your declaration and you will say, this is the right that they... Shh, that's my husband. Don't speak. กำลังออกเดี๋ยวนี้นะคะ ออกเดี๋ยวนี้ กำลังออกเดี๋ยวนี้ไปเซ็นทรัลพระรามสองเหรอได้ยินไหมกำลังไปเซ็นทรัลพระรามสองเดี๋ยวนี้ไปชำระUOB ยังไม่ถึงกรุงศรีกำลังจะไปนะโอเคกำลังจะไป3 โมงใช่รีบไปโอเคเขาโทรมาถามประชาแล้วชำระมา 6,700 รู้อย่าคิดเดี๋ยวกำลังไปนะให้เขาเบอร์โทรศัพท์บอกเขาโทรหาฉันโอเคโอเคไปแล้วไปกำลังไปThat just ruined my video, didn't it? Oh. Okay, so just quickly do this thing. So then you're going to go to, they said, please come to the Crown and the Majesty and let us know. And then you go to the court and you tell the court, like I'm going to do, which was what they have done wrong. And the court, you pray, you ask a prayer. And then you say, dear judge, I do pray. Can you see there the part where it says do pray?
Are we at subjects' liberties to be allowed?
Yeah, we're in subjects' liberties to be allowed.
So...
And then you can go down to the 3rd line. And it will say do pray. Can you see where it says Parliament and then do pray on the 3rd? Yeah. So then it says, so you say, I do pray that it may be declared and enacted, and then you tell the judge and that my rights and liberties are asserted, and I claim them. I claim that I have this common law right.
Yeah.
And the judge, and you will say, can I have a declaration to say that this common law right, in fact, exists? And the judge will give you a declaration. He won't use all of this. He will just say that we see that there's a problem here with your parliamentary law, and it should be taken to be that this right should be firmly and strictly upheld. And he will issue a declaration to you. And on that declaration, it will be to all officers and all ministers whatsoever. That includes High Court judges, everyone, even to the Majesty herself. Even the Queen's Court bench will know about this declaration. And they will never be able to create that law. It has to be removed. And this is where they will tell the ministers to stand down. Do you see? You can't just go knocking on the door of Parliament and say, get out of Parliament because we want you to. We've got a right not to be, we've got all these rights. We've got a right to a house. We've got a right to this money. We've got a right to this job. We've got a right not to be spoken badly to. We've got rights, thousands and thousands of rights. You can't. You only get a very few rights of the common law, and the judge will give you a declaration for those. So that is where they're leading you incorrectly. Now, what was that word that you were asking me before? So I'll just go actually up here. So all Parliament is rested on here. So what is, my question is, what are people doing? What are these lawyers doing questioning Parliament when these lawyers should know that all of what are the laws that Parliament follow? Well, they have to follow the common law. And so I don't know why these lawyers are not looking to their common law to figure out where the Parliament is going wrong, and then proving it in court, and then presenting their declaration to the Parliament and waiting for the response. Parliament must respond. So all of the Parliament restrictions are in this common law, not in the 1990 Bill of Rights. There's nothing in there. Now it says here, right here, if you go to grants of fines, you'll see it'll say grants of fines. In between there it says subjects' rights. Go up to number 1. You'll see there that it says subjects' rights.
Yeah.
And then you'll see above that grants of fines. And then this will tell you that it pleased Almighty God that the Majesty would be the glorious instrument of delivering the kingdom from popery and arbitrary power. Well, what you're experiencing through the Health Act is clearly arbitrary power, isn't it? That's clearly, and then it goes on to something very important, because it says here, it says it is upon, there's a letter sent. They sent a letter to all of the counties, cities, universities, boroughs, synoports, parliaments, lords, priests. They sent this letter to all of them, and they said, if you want to govern the people, you're going to be restricted by this common law right here. And if you're not prepared to be restricted by this common law, then you need to leave immediately. You're not allowed to govern the people anymore with your crappy arbitrary laws of the religions and that. You're not allowed to do that anymore, and they stopped it all. And they said, and then it says here, it is upon these letters that have ordered them all, upon these letters which all elections will be made. So all their elections and all of their power Parliament is based on these laws. Now, you people that you see, no dispensing of power, late dispensing of power, ecclesiastical courts, levying money. I'll read these, I'll teach you these another one, because these are your rights, but we're not doing your rights, we're doing parliamentary restrictions today. We'll do your rights another day. But that's what you get. You get these few here. That's for you. But the important piece, the guts of this, the guts of this is what all of the Parliament, so we're down on excessive bail now. Are you at we're at the juries and excessive bail.
Frequent. Oh yeah, excessive
Yeah.
bail, yeah.
Right, so we're going to do our common law rights in another video. I'm not doing that today because I don't have time. But these are what the Parliament have to do in order to govern you. And it says here that they have to strengthen and preserve laws that protect your common law rights. And you don't get many, I'll tell you that much. And that is their sole function of Parliament. Their sole function is to protect you. All laws are written from your common law rights. And the minute that they start governing outside of that, then they are not supposed to be there. But the only way that you can remove them is by getting a declaration. So you can't remove them at just going to the Governor General's. It ain't going to work. So all parliaments are based on preserving our common law rights, not the fundamental rights, which are not the same. So then that I said to you, move down to, you'll see the two houses set. I'm not going to do them all today because all of them need a whole session just on each one. So, but we're just doing this quickly today. Then you'll go to the two houses set. Now this is talking about, it includes Lord Spiritual, that's all religious leaders. It includes Lord's Temporal, that is all the knights and queens and all of them, and then the commoners set in the two houses. And there's a separation of each of those. And then none of them are permitted. So the commons, what you'll see here is it says here, Lord Spiritual and Temporal. And then you'll see a comma. And then you'll see and commons. And commons is us, people. And Lord Spiritual and Lord's Temporal are the majesties and the spiritual leaders and the churches and all of them. They are outside of governing over us. That's the separation of church and state. And so then that's how the Parliament is based. And the spiritual leaders and the majestical leaders are not allowed to interfere with the commons. But when the commons have a problem with their Parliament, they go above to the Lord Spiritual and the Lord's Temporal, and they say, hey, our government is screwing us over. And it's those ones that are higher up there, they help you, not your Parliament. If your Parliament is screwing you over, why would you go to them and ask them for help? That's just like, that's asking your rapist to help you. Why would you do? So you need to have a place where you can go that is outside of Parliament, where you can go and say, hey, these people are raping me and pillaging me and not doing their job. And so then you go, but you have to go through the proper process. Because what's to stop the mongrel mob turning up to the Governor General and saying, hey, Governor General, throw out Parliament because the Parliament's not giving us what we want, but all the other people want these other things. So you can't just go knocking on their doors. There's a process. And then, so the Commons is there, and then you go down to the liberties to be allowed. So you know that you've got the two, you know that, hang on. So you so if you review it again, you'll see frequent parliaments, that they have to strengthen our laws as above. And then you go down to the two houses set, and that tells you who the two houses are. The Queen and the religious leaders are above. They go above.
Leaders, are they the Lord's spiritual?
Yeah, that's the Pope. That's the Pope, the English church deacons. See, they should be supporting all this because they are in the highest. They're actually higher. They're the people that we go to when the Parliament's screwing us over. And so they're letting us down too, especially when they're out in their protests and doing protests when they should be sorting this out for us because they can. They have that power. And so we can get a declaration to complain, and it would go to the highest church, not these little churches that are sitting down here in the commoners' land. It would go to like the cathedral kind of church things, the highest ones, papal leaders and that. And you say to them what the governments are doing to you, and they help you. And the temporal is the Queen and all of her Queen's Bench and the King's Bench and all of that. They're all there to help you. But if you remember correctly to the Magna Carta, originally the kings were appointed by the church, right? Mm-hmm. So the church is on top, and then under that comes the Queen. And then under that comes the commoner. But we said we want our own parliaments and we want to be self-governing. So they said, okay, you can be self-governing, but the leaders are evil, and so they gave us a way out. And so we go, so then so you've got your Lord Spiritual there, who are the highest, and then you go to the common law court. We've got a common law court. We go to the common subjects' liberties to be allowed. We go to the common law court, and we can ask them for a declaration what this Parliament's doing to us. The judge will give us he's very careful. He ain't going to give us this declaration easily. You know, it has to be very clear what's wrong. And then he will give you a declaration. If he does, you've won your case, and you take that declaration and you give that to the Parliament, and they will stand down. That's how you get the Parliament to stand down.
So when you say you're asking the judge for the declaration, you have to be very clear. So you have to, I mean, how do you articulate that your liberties and freedoms are being, what's the word?
Well, because they're bringing all the United Nations law into New Zealand. So that 1990 is attached to the Human Rights Act, right? And so that there is against bringing it into our domestic courts is against all of this common law anyway, because this is the supremacy. Go and look at the supremacy. And the supremacy says it right there. I do declare, here's a declaration right here. This would get a declaration. I do declare that no foreign prince, person, prelate, state or potentate has or ought to have any jurisdiction or power or superiority or authority within this realm. So that right there is telling you that foreign governments are not allowed to govern over you. Well, that's all that United Nations law. That's wrong right for a start right there. There's a declaration right there that you can make. Next one it says that here the two houses sit, and it's saying that their job is to make effectual provision for the settlement of these laws and liberties in our kingdom, so that we won't be in danger of having our laws subverted. Well, there are 3 petitions into Parliament at this point in time. There are 3 petitions into Parliament from 3 party leaders. One is the Social Credit, one is the Te Pāti Maori Party, and one is the New Conservative Party. 3 petitions in there to make the 1990 Bill of Rights entrenched as the common law, as the supreme law, supreme law. Well, that is putting our common law in danger for a start right there. You can get a declaration for that. So that's illegal what they're doing, and even for the Parliament to allow them to do that, to allow a sitting member of Parliament to put that in and not have that person stand down, that means that they're not doing their job. So that's where they're wrong.
No, it sounds like a lot of corruption to me.
Yes, it's very, very extremely corrupt, Diane. It's extremely. And because the 1990 Bill of Rights does not make any restrictions on the Parliament, and that's why it was never passed in the first place correctly. It has never ascended. I don't. It ascended. See, you have some things now. Anything to do with this ascends to the Majesty the Queen, because this bill is to her. But anything to do with that 1990 Bill of Rights, I don't think it ascends to the Queen. I think it only ascends as far as Parliament and no further. It ascends to the executive and it stops there, because it was never approved by the Queen. So I don't see how the Queen would never put her seal to it for a start, because for a start, the Majesty is only concerned with that our parliaments are doing their job to protect our few rights. And so she doesn't ascend to much. She doesn't allow much to ascend, because can you imagine if she allowed all these laws from around the world to ascend? She'd be, Her Majesty would be in chaos. So they did just some very basic common law rights to keep you safe in the world of chaos. And so that's only what's allowed to ascend and nothing more. So now why was I talking about that? Where am I? I'm a bit lost now.
What's that?
I'm a bit lost now. So
What we need at the moment, a world of chaos that we live in.
Yeah, because there are no restrictions to Parliament in the 1990. All your restrictions are here. And so when they're doing wrong and doing everything wrong, as long as nobody calls them out on it, they can do it. Because they made a law. They actually did make a new law in New Zealand that if nobody contests what they're doing, then they can do it. So if we have to all get in there and start contesting and asking for declarations, and everything will stop. Everything will stop when we start making declarations, which we're doing now. It's a bit complicated, the first one. So then you get your subjects' liberties to be allowed, and you get your declaration. Then you attach that, and that orders all ministers to stand out. Now, we were talking about, there was a reason why I wanted to show you. Go down to limitation of the Crown. So, have you got the limitation of the Crown? What was that word that you had asked me?
What did I ask you?
The heirs of a smuggler.
I don't know. What was that to do with?
Hang on. So it says here what we had been talking about was that, I'll just put it up so the public can see. I don't know if the public can see, but here is the Social Credit Party has put in a petition to you won't have that there. Have put in a petition for the New Zealand Bill of Rights to be amended and entrenched into law. And then there's another petition that came from the Maori Party to remove the majesty of the head of state. And then there's another petition by Ted Johnston from another party with a petition for the New Zealand 1990 to be the supreme law. Now, the New Zealand 1990 has no restrictions on Parliament. So that I said to you, the way that we can stop them from doing that, because if they made the New Zealand 1990 the supreme law, well, that means that United Nations is the supreme law in New Zealand, clearly.
And they can do whatever they like, the lawless one.
Yeah, that's what they're after. That's what they're after. So, and it says here that in the limitation of the Crown, it says here, here's what it says. They don't really use a lot of full stops in here, so it's quite hard to read. I don't know where to start. It's one single, you look at this and you won't see full stops. You see each section is like a law unto itself. So each section is similar to an entire act. And that's why it's got no full stop, because it's constitutional and it's flowing, and it means that you can't just pick a piece of this and use it. The courts do, but in fact, this entire piece applies. So whereas if you look in our acts, what they do is they take this entire piece and then they separate it into small pieces into acts. And they add just one or two words into the act that lets any police or any parliamentarian know that as soon as they see that act, and as soon as they see that section, as soon as they see that one word, they know that it has been made in compliance with this common law right. And they know that they have to uphold that, and if they break it, then they're breaking the law themselves. They know that. So, but this actually here by itself cannot be separated. You couldn't just grab this whole thing and take it to the court and use this whole thing, because it's used differently by the Queen. But what it says here, and so that's why there's no full stops, but I'll say that it's got all the majesty, and under God it's got the crown, and then that they're talking about, the common law are talking about that we're a corporation. Yes, we are. And it tells you here that you will use your lives and your estates and all of your power to protect the common law. That's why you put your estate in there and you have a birth certificate, because it is all connected to the common law. And when you remove your birth certificate, they're actually taking you out of the common law. Now, the Americans do not have this common law. They can use it if they want, but they use that Declaration of Independence, which is not, it comes from the common law, but it is not the common law. Mm-hmm. It's a weaker version. So that when the Americans are telling you to dump your English birth certificate, you have to be careful, because they're telling you to dump this. But if I was them, I would dump my American birth certificate and I would try to get an English birth certificate. That's what I would do, but not you. You don't, because you've already got all of this, and America is not following this. So it does say that your lives and estates are, because you have a Queen's Army, right? Well, now the Queen's Army is not the same as your army, because I'll tell you in a minute. But I said to you that all the persons, their heirs and posterities, forever. So this is a forever document. Even if they try and take it out, they can't. It's forever. Yes, and it says, do faithfully promise that they will stand to. So we're not understanding anything. We're standing to maintain and defend their said majesties. Now, majesties, who are the majesties? Lord spiritual and temporal and commons and the Queen and King and the crown. We are all the majesties. And so we defend the majesties, because why do we defend the majesties? Because we're defending our common law and its protections. And also the limitation and succession of the crown. Why do we want the crown to succeed? Well, we are the crown. And we want the crown to continue, to live with peacefully. Oh, we were asking about here, peaceful. We were, yeah, I'll go down to this bit first. So I'll do this bit first and I'll go back to the peaceful. And it says, and limitation and succession of the crown herein specified and contained to the utmost of their powers with their lives and estates against all persons whatsoever that shall attempt anything to the contrary. So anyone that attempts to remove this from us is going to be getting in trouble. And it says here, this is what it says they have to do. Because I said the government was governing illegally because we are not in peace and tranquility. And we are not in peace and tranquility because of the 1990 Bill of Rights and thousands of United Nations laws, thousands of refugees that have been flooded on our country. We are not in peace and tranquility, and we need to be going and telling the Queen's Army about this. And it says here, for preventing all questions and divisions within this realm. So there's all the religious people are going to have to stop fighting over who's going to be in power. And all the Maoris can stop fighting, all the tribes can stop fighting by reasons of any pretended titles to the crown. So they're all trying to say, the Maoris are all saying that they own the country and yada yada, and they own the crown which is us, and they're not allowed to. And this is their job. And for preserving a certainty in the succession of thereof, in and upon which the unity, peace, tranquility, and safety of this nation doth under God wholly consist and depend. And the Lord's spiritual and Lord's temple and the common which is us do beseech their majesties that it may be enacted, established, and declared. So this is a declaration. Whenever it says declared, it means you're entitled to a declaration that the crown, that's Parliament, and regal government of the said kingdoms and dominions, with all in singular premises belonging to, pertaining, appertaining, shall be and continue. So this is saying that they have to govern us in peace and tranquility. And when did all the chaos start? Right, that's all I'm going to talk to you about today. But when did all the chaos start? Through the 1990 Bill of Rights. That's where it's all gone wrong, because they're trying to attach things to our common law that shouldn't be there. Now, they had all these fights 200 years ago, and the chaos that ensued resulted in the common law rights being written on paper for us. We don't need it. They're telling you you don't need it. But all this common law, all of this chaos has come out of, they've buried the common law rights, and they've tried to put the 1990 Human Rights Declaration of Human Rights, they've tried to put all of that in place above our common law, and it isn't working. Now, I just wanted to quickly talk about the Queen's armies. Now, look, listen, we've got a parliament, right? We've got the commoners, which is us, and then we've got our own parliament that we vote in, and then we know that we can go to the majesty and the highest religious leaders, not these religious leaders that are down here just preaching down at the local church, not those ones, the ones that sit up there with the Queen and talk with the Queen and advise the Queen, all of those ones. When our parliament goes rogue, well, who do the police follow? Who do our armies follow? Who do our police follow? They follow our parliament, right? So it stands to reason that when our parliament, that might be why I've gone dizzy, stands to reason that when our parliament has gone rogue, then our police and our armies are going to go rogue too, aren't they? And the police and the army, and the police and the army are obviously not taking care of the people, are they? So then what do? you are absolutely screwed because they've got all the weapons. And that's why now we as a people have not taken care of our Queen's Army. They have made out that the Queen's Army, they have let us sit in complacency for 200 years. And they have made out that we don't really need the Queen's Army. They have said, oh, we've got all these governments, we've got this UN, everyone's taking care, we can all manage things by ourselves, and then we're no longer necessary to have a Queen's Army because you've got your own armies in your country. But as we can clearly see in our country, our armies and our police have turned against us. Where do we have to turn? We have to turn to the Queen's armies. We don't even know if she's strong enough because we have been complacent. We have all refused to send money to the Queen's Army. We have all demonised the Queen's Army, and we have all had no idea. We have not all kept up on the knowledge that we need to have in our common law. So we are all responsible here because it is our responsibility as the people to know what the common law is correctly, isn't it? That's what we're supposed to do. And so if we have not, the only people responsible for all of this are us. Now, what we've got to do is start making our declarations to the court. We need to find lawyers that are prepared to make declarations on our pure common law, and we need to start sending that to the court and seeing what happens. We don't know because even the courts might be corrupted. But if they're corrupted, then we've got to go through the process. We go to the court. If we see the courts are corrupted, then we go to the Governor-General, and when the Governor-General is corrupted, we go directly to, and Her Majesty is allowed to step in with her Queen's Army. We've got the whole Commonwealth that can do this. So we've got to stop looking at our little piece of land. Start going to the Commonwealth and to our ancient protections, right? So that's going to take a bit of time. In the meantime, everybody lock your doors, do as you're told, try to obey what they're telling you to do, and stay safe. Now, going down there, I was just going to finish up, there's like one more minute. Going down, I've looked at all of the protests and things, and there are many people. You've got Israeli people down there with their Israeli flag. You've got Islamic people down there with the Palestinian flag. You've got various different groups of New Zealand Maori that are all claiming that they own New Zealand and they want to govern over New Zealand and all of this. We've got many, many different sects down there, group cults down there. We've got New Earther people down there. You've got lawyers down there that are betraying New Zealand. So at this present point of time, I'm going to try and put this video out if you don't. All we're asking to people, doesn't matter which group you belong to, which church you belong to, let's try to get a moment of calm. Let's take ourselves back to tranquility. Go back to your homes, lock your doors. If they tell you to leave your job, then leave your job. If they're telling you to lock your doors, just do that for now. And we will start making the applications to the court as we should have done 2 years ago. You've got Diane's helping with that. You've got me, Kate Floss, doing that. And we're going to put the message out, and people are going to come and help us. SOS. And so what we need for the moment while we wait for this to go to the court is for some calm. Because I will just say this, because this happened in Thailand, if they take out the government, all of the courts kind of shut down, everything shuts down, and you go under military rule, and you're not able to use these tools that we've got.
So that's the last thing we need is the government.
That's yeah, because then because as you can see, did Did you comprehend what I was? Well, I would say understand. Did you understand? Because we do understand under these protections. Did you understand what I'm kind of talking to you about?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is all. This is not talking about your rights. This is talking about what they have to do for the right to govern over you. And so that's where your problem is, not with your individual rights. And so, so you do understand all of that, don't you? And so that now,
I can see all the little groups like just being led astray too, or fighting in their own little corner. Obviously the intention is there for what they want, but they are in the wrong, they're fighting in the wrong corner. So,
well, they're being